Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time. So when a difficult moment approaches or comes into your life and you're trying to assess it and make sense of it, trying to deal with it, what happens when it's insurmountable? What do you do when it's overpowering, when you can't make sense of it, when you tried everything within your power and your understanding? What do you do? So this is a similar situation to where Arjuna is right now, this warrior who's taking the counsel of Krishna because he's in a situation in life that he just can't make sense of. He has a conflict of interest between his duty and his relationship with his family, his relatives, his guru, his teacher, and he's trying to assess all of this and trying to figure out, what do I do? What's the best choice to do here? Because life will put you in a situation where you have to make a decisive choice. Do I move left or do I move right? Have you been there? Have you been in that situation when life unpredictably forces you to make a decision to move left or to move right, to go in this direction or to go in that direction? What do you do? So at those moments, Krishna is advising Arjuna to take counsel of the higher levels. Take counsel of yourself at the level of the intelligence, which is following the dictation of the spiritual dimension. If you follow the spiritual dimension, that is the foundation of all other levels of existence. That will be your best choice to take. Although it may not appease you at the bodily level, the mind may not be happy with the decision, but on the ultimate level, that will be the best choice to take. And Krishna is guiding Arjuna in that direction at the moment. So as we're following the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse number 33. Atache tvam imam dharmyam shangramam na karisyasi tatan swadharmam kritam cha hritam papam avapsyasi. Translation: if, however, you do not perform this religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duty and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. So as we've been discussing that Arjuna had put forward 4 arguments in the first chapter, CEDS: compassion, enjoyment, destruction of dynasty, and sinful reactions. So over the past 2 verses, Krishna has addressed enjoyment, that you'll achieve heaven, Arjun. As a Kshatriya, there is no loss or diminution. If you win on the bodily level, you'll inherit this whole kingdom. And if you lose and you die here, then by fighting dharma, you will go to the heavenly planets. So you'll enjoy there. So you'll enjoy here and you'll enjoy there. There's no loss. So having described that situation to Arjuna, now he's saying, Arjun, you are a man of dharma. You are a virtuous person and you fear sin. This is a very interesting dichotomy, because many traditions of the world today teach one to fear God instead of to fear sin. We have to love God, not fear God. We have to love God and fear sin. That is the proper understanding. Because if you fear God, then how do you develop love for the same person that you fear? If anything, it's going to be a very diluted form of love, because the predominant emotion is fear. So the Aryan culture is based on self-realization, and the foundation of self-realization is based on one's relationship with the Supreme, on the spiritual dimension. So the proper understanding is to love God and fear sin. So Krishna is using that same argument now of sin that Arjuna brought up and said, okay, it's a very virtuous one, Arjun. Good one there. It's a good argument that one should be careful and cautious of sin and one should fear sin. But Krishna is telling him, Arjun, you are only understanding sin from the bodily level of experience. You are not studying the concept. You are not studying the principle of sin from the spiritual dimension. That you have a responsibility. And as a soldier, you can use your talent of fighting to protect Dharma. That is what is expected of you now. If you don't do it as a soldier, who will? Other people are not trained. Other people, normal people, are not trained as soldiers. You are trained. That is your vocation. That is something you have become an expert in. And now you have an opportunity to use that not just as a profession or as a livelihood, but to use that to protect Dharma. So you have a very unique situation that your talents has bore fruit, that now you can use that in the service of the spiritual dimension. You can use that to protect righteousness, to enforce goodness, to enforce religiosity amongst all men. So you're very fortunate that this has come to you in this way. So yesterday we were hearing it came out of its own accord, unsought. Krishna used the word unsought. Now today he's using the same idea that Arjun, you fearing of sin, that you will kill these soldiers and kill their bodies and therefore incur sin, but you will incur greater sin because you have a responsibility as a soldier and as a commander of this army. You have a huge responsibility to use your profession to protect Dharma. And if you're not going to understand that and only act at the bodily level of consciousness and think that you're only incurring sin at that level, then I got a surprise for you, Arjun. You are going to incur greater sin because not everybody is empowered with the responsibility to protect Dharma. You are. Kshatriya means one who gives protection. So your understanding is only protection at the bodily level. Krishna is speaking of protection at the spiritual level to protect Dharma. So Arjuna, understand the difference and therefore respond accordingly.
Do you remember the first time you killed someone?
Yeah. We weren't a family that carried guns or any kind of weapon for violence or anything, no.
So we played war, stuff like that, but it was never real.
Only my dad, my mom, they told us it's like to hurt people or kill or never ever.
You always learned that when someone died, it was something that was detrimental. Someone felt it. Someone else needed that person in their lives.
I grew up, protected all my life. Even when I joined the military, my guys treated me as a kid brother. I was protected.
Have you ever killed anyone? And if so, what happened?
Which time?
We were in a couple different villages in Sarobi, which is a city right next to Sharbaran.
We were going to the border of Albania to a town nearby.
We set up claymores. They're bomb devices that you face. They have like 700 steel balls in them.
We were ambushed. My bus was blown up.
I was the only one up there that wasn't hurt and scared to death. Scared to death. Really, 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 really scared. So I started asking, screaming for help. Somebody get up here and help me. I'm alone. And then two little heads.
As I took the first 3 steps, I just was bounding up. Basically, that's when the gunfire started.
We gunned down these 2 guys holding a larger machine gun, a PKM, and another guy holding his ammo. So they were just running from point A to point B. We happened to just gun them down. And they were right next to a kalot. A kalot's a house, like a little mud hut. And a lady came out.
That one guy is as close to me because Iranian, they come very close to us and they attack us at night. So we shoot everywhere.
My head was ringing, everything was in slow motion, and there was a rifle on the ground that had gotten blown out of the bus. I picked it up and ran towards the gunfire.
I was down, and all I could see was his head and shoulders. He had a hard hat on, and then I saw the red emblem. It was. And then when I could see a silhouette, I blasted them. Silhouettes. They're not real people, they're just targets.
You don't shoot women or children on the battlefield, but we were just so into the moment. We watched her pick up the rifle, and that was, well, the machine gun, and that was the cue, and we just lit her up. And I remember just watching, there was 3 of us, and we just opened up, and it was just blood up against the wall. She just slumped over, and it's like, all right, we got her.
We found a very young Vietnamese person with his legs mostly gone.
I come to him, I look to his face with the flashlights. He told me, just finish me, just finish. I don't want to live, so I kill him.
So Prabhupada gives a nice purport here. He describes Arjuna was a famous fighter, and he attained fame by fighting many great demigods. So understand reputation. So Krishna gives 2 arguments in his translation. So in the verse, Krishna gives 2 arguments. One, that you'll incur sin by not fighting, and secondly, you lose your reputation. So reputation is a great thing, because reputation is built around honor. And for a Kshatriya to be dishonored, for a Kshatriya, honor is the greatest thing he can live by. He lives by his honor, by his word, by his chivalry, by his activities, and he becomes famous by his honor. So Arjun, you have achieved honor, reputation, not just among mere mortals. You have fought amongst demigods. You have achieved honor on a celestial level, not just on a mortal level. You have fought with demigods. It's not you are not an ordinary fighter. And if you now are not going to fight and you're going to take the begging profession and run away from the battlefield, do you think everybody here is going to say, oh, wow, well done, Arjuna, well done? They're all going to laugh at you. They're going to say, wow, you have all that training, so expert in archery, you fought even with demigods, and now when it comes to your moment of greatest achievement, you want to run away? So you can see Krishna's encouragement on the bodily level of motivation, that, oh son of Bharata, oh Arjuna, remember your reputation. He's connecting all these things. Oh Arjuna, remember your honor. So all these things are motivation for Arjuna to fight. So he's starting on the bodily level because that's where Arjuna's consciousness is. So as he gets motivated from that platform, then gradually builds it up to the subtle and then the spiritual dimension. So we have to have some starting point. And Krishna is saying, even if you're starting by bodily motivation, that, oh, I'll become somebody great. Okay, fine, do that. So even if one starts one spiritual practice, that I'll become recognized as a great devotee, I'll become recognized as something, whatever the motivation is, start it from there. Whatever the motivation is, start it from somewhere and connect your mind to the spiritual platform. So Prabhupada continues by giving examples of how good Arjuna was and which demigods he became famous for fighting against. So he describes here, including even Lord Shiva. After fighting and defeating Lord Shiva in the dress of a hunter, Arjuna pleased the Lord and received as a reward a weapon called Pashupata Astra. So this is a beautiful event that happened. Let's take a look at this video.
পরাজয় স্বীকার করছো কি, নাকি এখনো ক্লান্ত নও?
না, ক্লান্ত নই, কিন্তু যার সামনে স্বয়ং ভগবান শিব দাঁড়িয়ে, সেই কি রূপে জয়লাভ করবে? গুরু দ্রোণের শিষ্যের সামনে কোনো বনবাসী এতক্ষণ ধরে দাঁড়িয়ে আছে, তা সম্ভব নয়। ভগবান পিনাক পানি, যিনি সর্বপ্রথম পিনাক নামক ধনুক প্রস্তুত করে সমগ্র বিশ্বকে ধনুর্বিদ্যার জ্ঞান দিয়েছেন। আমাকে আমার অপরাধের দণ্ড দিন ভগবান, আর কৃপা করে স্বরূপে দর্শন দিন।
So we can see Arjuna is just not another soldier. He's achieved celestial level of reputation as a fighter, where he's fought with even great personalities like Lord Shiva and attained great valor and reputation through that. So Prabhupada gives a second example here. Let's see that. Everyone knew that he was a great warrior. Even Dronacharya gave him benedictions and awarded him the special weapon by which he could kill even his teacher. So what a level of trust where the teacher awards a weapon to his own disciple, his student, and knowingly that this student can use this weapon to kill or defeat the teacher. What a level of trust was built there. So you can see, after understanding this on this level of depth, at this depth of relation that Arjuna has with his teacher, with his grandfather, with his family, you can see it's very difficult for him on an emotional level to give that up. So Krishna is making him aware that understand yourself, Arjuna, understand what you achieved. All of that will be gone. All of that will be mocked. All of that will be laughed at if you don't stand up and fight. So he concludes, so he was credited with so many military certificates from many authorities, including his adopted father, Indra, the heavenly king. So we know, although Arjuna's father was Pandu, that we say Pandavas, they are the 5 sons of Pandu, but his actual father was Indra. And we remember this story that comes in the Mahabharata, where his mother Kunti had a special boon. She could summon any demigod to give her a child. And therefore, as a young maiden, she was capricious and frivolous and thought, let me try this mantra and see if it works. And by chanting this mantra, she summoned different devatas. And you know, each of the Pandavas, their adopted fathers are different of the devatas. So Arjuna's father was Indra. So Indra had been summoned and he had given Kunti a child. And when the child was born, she named him Arjuna. So there's a deep connection between Indra and Arjuna. And he also gave Arjuna special weaponry. But if he abandoned the battle, not only would he neglect his specific duty as a Kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting but by withdrawing from the battle. So when one is bestowed with a certain responsibility, it behooves one to do his duty. This is a great responsibility, and this is one of the driving principal messages of the Ramayana, the great epic of Lord Ram, that when one has a certain responsibility, no matter what life throws at one, one should perform that duty, Maryada Purushottam, and complete that responsibility no matter what. One can understand how difficult that is, that this is a great level of connection to achieve. And one can only achieve this if he's connected on the spiritual platform.